Brilliance and brutality, intellect and intrigue, Christianity and carnage. The Byzantine Empire was a beacon of light with a dark side.
They called themselves Romanos, those who continued the traditions of the Roman Empire.
Led by rulers who exercised absolute power and architects who pushed beyond Rome's engineering marvels, the Byzantines constructed the ancient world's longest aqueduct, virtually invincible city walls, and a colossal domed cathedral that defied the laws of nature.
A church of unprecedented proportions grew up magically.
But carrying on the Roman legacy came with a price.
He blinded 14,000 men, leaving every 100th man with one eye.
The Byzantine Empire was the dominant civilization during the Dark Ages. But after a millennium of rule, its engineering feats would betray them, as an ancient light was extinguished in the glare of modern warfare.
Hi, I'm Peter Weller. Byzantium was an ancient Greek city-state founded around 600 BC, named after its king Byzantus. They settled here because of this thin strip of water that connected Asia to Europe and the Black Sea to eventually the Mediterranean. This strip of water is called the Strait of Bosphorus, meaning bull track from ancient mythology. Byzantine today means scheming or old or devious. But during its 1100 years, the Byzantine Empire would not only be the savior to the Western world's profound heritage of law and literature, but it would put Christianity on the fast track, and along the way give us the artisans and builders and craftsmen who would eventually light up the Renaissance right into the 21st century. And all of this would happen under the auspices of a single emperor named Constantine, who of all of the fakers and charlatans that history has coughed up to steal the moniker the Great, Constantine really deserved it.
November 8, 324 AD. After 2 decades of bloody civil war, the Emperor Constantine has finally seized sole control of the entire Roman Empire. He is a leader with a vision, a brilliant strategist, and a man without limits.
He became emperor really through his own wiles. He is ruthless in the way he assumes power.
Constantine the Great was one of those rulers that changed the world. He inherited a Roman Empire which had been divided into 2 parts.
Constantine would reunite the vast empire, ruling over its western and eastern halves.
He was a very astute politician, and he was faced with the problem of both administering and of managing this enormous realm.
Just 6 weeks after ascending to the throne, Constantine journeys to the edge of the empire, to a remote spot in modern-day Turkey.
Constantine took a spear and traced the outline of the city in the dirt. His entourage was somewhat amazed at the extent to which he intended to build the city. He is said to have commented, "I will go as far as until he who leads me stops."
That line would become the boundary of the empire's great new capital, Nova Roma, New Rome. And from that sketch would rise a glittering city in the center of a great new empire. The city would come to be known as Constantinopolis, Constantine's city.
Constantine effectively shifts the center of the Roman Empire and founds a new center.
He was moving away from Rome with its old rivalries, political infighting, vested interests and so forth, to create something quite new, which he could mold.
Constantine's vision for his new city would be built upon the engineering techniques perfected during the Roman Empire.
There was a grand campaign of construction, of building forums, marketplaces, to build the kind of buildings that ancient Rome had.
But Constantine's rule would be marked by one major distinction. Unlike any previous emperor, he would harness the power of another ruler. His name was Jesus Christ.
Christianity is really on the rise. There is a large Christian presence in the empire, and simply recognizing this presence made a good deal of political sense.
Constantinople was founded, in effect, as a Christian empire, and Orthodox Christianity was fundamental to its existence.
Now, we have to remember that even though Constantine was venerated by Christianity, he's still an emperor. In other words, a dictator who's not only killed his son, his stepson, but also his second wife, all on the same trip to Italy. So if the boy wants a city, he's going to get a city and not take no for an answer. Problem is, how do you attract people to a dusty town in the hinterlands called Byzantium? Well, first of all, you might want to rename it after yourself. And second of all, in the style of all Roman emperors, rebuild it. If Constantine could rise out of the grave today and see the success story of Istanbul, population 12 million, 2 million tourists a year, he'd probably faint. Because in 337 AD, when he dies, not only is the city half done, but he's got a big problem. Bulging population, one little provincial aqueduct in a city surrounded by sea. So there's water everywhere, but not a drop to drink.
By the mid-4th century, the city was dying of thirst. Constantine's successors would have to develop a water supply far larger than Rome's to keep the city alive. The system they built would be one of the greatest engineering achievements of the ancient world.
There were no local water resources within the city walls of Constantinople, and hence water had to be brought from a much greater distance than anywhere else in the classical world and in the Mediterranean.
The task fell to an ambitious emperor named Valens, who reigned from 364 to 378 AD. He would carry out an audacious plan to engineer the world's longest aqueduct system. Completed, it would transport spring water a staggering 400 miles, equal in length to all of the Roman Empire's earlier aqueducts combined. The main line would begin 150 miles west of Constantinople, deep in the hinterlands of Thrace. Byzantine engineers would first have to find a way to maintain a consistent downward slope to keep the water moving.
There are tunnels underground, there are channels that go along the surface, and there are, where necessary, these great aqueduct bridges.
Between the 4th and 6th centuries, the Byzantines built 60 aqueduct bridges. The most impressive would rise nearly 90 feet. Today, it's known as the Kërshun-Lëgerme Aqueduct Bridge. Builders first constructed giant stone piers or supports. Once the piers were raised, masons worked on massive arches. Wooden forms held the stones of each arch in place until the keystone could be positioned and the arch completed. Framework was then built on the next tier and the process repeated. Like the Romans, Byzantine masons adorned their bridges with religious carvings. But unlike the Romans, the Byzantines chose Christian, not pagan symbols. More than 80 miles away, another aqueduct bridge, this one even larger, would channel water into the heart of Constantinople, now Turkey's largest city, Istanbul.
I'm standing on top of the giant aqueduct bridge built for the ancient city of Constantinople under the Emperor Valens. Boy, does that name ring power to you, Valens. Now, the entire aqueduct span is 150 miles, but just this section between two hills in Constantinople is 11 football fields long. And boy, did it take care of the city's water problem. But it not only took care of the water problem, just as we've seen in all of the empires, if you want to make a political statement with a public work, you build it big.